In today's video, I'm going to be going over some of my favorite shots from the first half of the MLB season. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. What is up? Welcome back. Pete here. What is going on, everyone? My name is Pete Gottschalk, content producer at Major League Baseball. And today, I'm in my living room. I know the lighting's not the greatest, but we're gonna be reviewing some of my shots from the first half of the MLB season. As I've done in years past, I'm gonna be breaking them down in terms of composition, the technical aspects of the shot itself, why I shot it like that, and just how I was kind of anticipating certain things going on during the shot. This is all to help y'all ultimately improve your own shots. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the first two shots I want to go over are two from the outfield in center field, which is a place I've been shooting from a lot this year. The Braves have been a really pitching heavy team so far, especially with Chris Sale. And then we also had Paul Skeens come in and pitch in Atlanta. So I've been shooting a lot in the outfield this year to kind of capture the pitch movements. It's just something that our audience and our fans love to personally watch, so I figured I've been doing a lot of that out there this year. So the first shot here is a Paul Skeens strikeout of Austin Riley. It's shot on a 600mm lens in 120 frames a second. If I skip forward here, Paul is coming into his delivery, and you can see this nice movement on this fastball, right? Gets frozen up by it. It happens from time to time. And with a pitcher like Paul, he's super talented. So 101 miles an hour fastball like that with a little bit of movement, that is just unhittable. If we speed this up right here, you can really see that break. If I loop it right here, really fast motion, you can really see that tail on that fastball. Very tough pitch to hit. It really shows you how powerful his fastball is. And again, while I'm shooting this, that's what I'm trying to highlight, right? I'm in manual focus, and this is the tough thing on the 600. I went to f4 instead of f2.8, which with my speed booster on my C70, I can get to. I went a little higher, so it was easier for me to roll that focus. Because I am in manual, going from Paul to Austin on such a zoomed in focal length is gonna be like a tiny little flick on f2.8. So I just gave myself a little bit more leeway there. And in the same vein, going on to this other shot I mentioned is this Chris Sale slider. And I shot it vertically, actually this time, zoomed in at 180 frames a second so I could really get that extra slow motion because Chris Sale has a nasty slider. And this one, again, I upped the f-stop to f4. And because this is 180 frames in standard def, it's a crop. So it's 600 plus a crop, and it's gonna be very hard to keep that in frame. So you'll notice the slider starts a little out of frame narrowly, but it does break all the way across the screen there. That is just incredible to see in that social format. I shot this vertically so I could kind of highlight the fact that it was going that far. This next one is of CJ Abrams' chain. And now you might ask, why are you shooting chains and not the game? Basically because, you know, when you're on social, people love to see the jewelry, the fashion, that culture within a sport, and especially baseball. That's something that we try to highlight. So I went and got CJ on a 600mm, same lens as I shot the last two. And he has this really cool chain. It's like an alien. I believe that's like what he calls himself or something. It's a really cool chain, one of the best ones in the league, I think. And just capturing this up close is really cool. I think we always look for stuff like this, whether it's like cool Jordan cleats or cool emblematic things in culture that we can show off on our players. The technical aspects of this it was obviously shot in 120 manual focus on a 600 at f2.8, I think. So we're really getting that shallow depth of field. You can't even see the background here. One thing I did make sure I did was I turned off the internal stabilization in my camera. I don't know if this does this with Sony cameras on a very long lens, but sometimes when you're on a really long lens and there's a stabilizer in the lens and a stabilizer in the camera body, those two will kind of mess with each other whenever you're zoomed in. It'll kind of start to bounce the sensor as like a player is approaching the lens or you got someone in really tight. This next shot is with the 360 camera. And this is a camera that I've raved about over and over and over. The players at the Braves and other teams, they love interacting with it because it's kind of goofy and people think it's a drone sometimes, at least fans do so. It's something that I use a lot, and if you have access to, I highly recommend it. But this is just another one of these runouts that I've done. I've done these in the past. You can see final out, Blooper and his little mascot squad do their thing. And then I get really low, and I do this because I can show so much there. I wanted to get these fireworks in frame with Blooper running out with the big flag in the foreground. See how this kind of creates like a dystopian, like you don't really understand what's going on in the camera, and then it changes to higher length. And see how Mike really loves interacting with this thing. He'll look at it and gritty in front of it. That is one of my favorite shots to get all the time. with the fireworks, especially the Braves do. Ronald was interacting with it too. Mike always interacts with this thing. I love doing this camera. And this kind of connects to the last video I put out. You know, content is getting a lot more casual. If you can get this type of access and players are gonna show off their personalities and interact and dance. And we've all seen those cinematic shots before. Shot this handshake line 1,000 times over and over. And it doesn't really have much of a shelf life when I shoot it on my C70 sometimes, unless it's the playoffs or a special game. So other ways and other camera systems and different angles will always up your content and your quality and engagement too. So this next one is Raisel Iglesias, the Braves closer, picking up the ball. Now this is something that I have harped on before. If you are feeling burnt out or shooting games over and over, a lot of games, football, basketball, whatever it be, always try and shoot details. There's always a time for B-roll, fans coming in, or players' jewelry, or players' gloves or shoes, lacing them up. And this is just another example of it. You can see this starts with the lights are off as Raisel comes in, but then I wanted to get it like this, but he kind of walks in at the end and they turn the lights back on. There we go. And we managed to get it back down, and Raisel just flicking the ball. Little baseball details like that, or any sport obviously, is something that I always look to capture. This is a 200 to 400 on the Canon C70 and 60 frames. I kind of mix between 60 and 24 usually when I'm shooting a game, and then I'll mix in some 120 as you guys have seen. But I do that 60, it's not the most ideal frame rate because I think 24 looks better sometimes, and then 120 is obviously ideal, but with the Canons, it doesn't get 120 in real speed, and for what I do, I need that real speed. So 60 is a good compromise. I can still slow that down if I want. I can do some ASMR glove work type stuff with that. It can be used in hype videos. It can be used in tons of different stuff. So just getting little details and different shots than just guys standing in a box ready for the pitch or defense or game action. You need those little in-between moments. And this next shot is an Aaron Nola tracking strikeout, shot in 24 frames a second on a 70-200. This shot may seem pretty innocuous, pretty simple, but it's not. I promise you, tracking a fastball or a curveball that's 80 to 100 miles an hour is not easy, and this is in 24 frames a second, so you get that really good motion blur. This shot is really good. We use shots like this all the time for like pitcher motion tracking edits. So this is just a good, different way to capture a strikeout rather than just a static shot of the pitcher or pitcher and catcher in frame. Two technical aspects, and this is why I wanted to show off this shot, was tracking the actual shot itself is very challenging. If you have a lens with multiple stabilization modes or stabilizer at all, turn that on. It's gonna help out. The Canon one that I was using, the 70-200, has two modes. Number one is kind of like a standard mode. Number two is like a panning one. For this, I switched it from 1 to 2 for the pan, and that really seemed to help make it a very smooth, abrupt transition there with pretty limited shake. In all honesty, this is one of my better ones this year. This shot takes a lot of practice. I mess it up all the time. All of us mess it up all the time. The other thing that I want to talk about this shot, and it does help, is angling your body towards where you want to finish the track. So if Aaron is over here at the camera and the catcher's over here, I will angle at the catcher and then flick the camera that way, and then it'll go. That's all I gotta do. That's just something that helps. It limits the movement rather than moving your whole body. And the last shot is this Jared Kelenic home run robbery, and I kind of got lucky here, I'm not gonna lie. But that, you gotta get lucky sometimes. It's kind of short on the front end of this shot. It works, right? I captured it, captured the reaction. I thought I was in pre-record, in all honesty. That's why I thought I had a little bit more time there on the front end. I would have hit record sooner if I knew I hadn't been. This is a 200-400 lens, and I'm up in the concourse, which I went up here to kind of get this exact shot. Whenever I'm shooting low to the ground in a stadium, it is very hard to get that movement. You don't really understand the lateral movements of players. It's kind of hard depth-wise. When you're up higher, more elevated position, it's much easier to track this type of stuff. This is very prevalent in football and basketball as well, because you're able to track that kind of windmill dunk or long throw or that out route from that receiver. It's just a lot easier to shoot and keep in frame. And that is kind of what I was trying here. I was probably on a different fielder. That's why there wasn't like a beginning to this shot. But you know, you gotta get lucky sometimes. And sometimes where you're shooting from doesn't always have to be on the field. I've harped on this over and over and over. It's crucial to mix it up. Go get your defense, go get your in-between moments from different spots, because you don't want a reel or a game recap, whatever you're making, to be all shot from the same spot. You can capture a lot from the stands, you'd be shocked. But anyway, thanks y'all for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, of course, my DMs are always open at PeteChalk on Instagram. And I'll see y'all in the next one.